Teacher, I am very eager to learn the techniques of self-learning. But every day, a new AI tool or update appears. Every month, a new technology changes everything. How can anyone keep up with such rapid changes?
That is a very profound and most important question in today's world. The first step is to accept one simple truth. Knowledge now has an expiry date. What stayed useful for 30 years may now become outdated in just 3. In the age of AI, the most valuable skill is no longer what you know. It is how quickly you can learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Then what is education today?
Education is no longer about filling your mind with facts. It is about training your mind to keep changing, growing, and adapting. The futurist Alvin Toffler wisely said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Learning gives you new knowledge. Unlearning helps you let go of ideas that no longer work. Relearning helps you replace old ways with better ones. A healthy mind is not a warehouse where facts are stored forever. It is a living garden that needs care every day. Modern neuroscience shows that our brains learn best through curiosity, observation, experience, practice, and feedback. Every meaningful experience strengthens or reshapes the connections between brain cells, a remarkable ability called neuroplasticity. Memorizing facts has its place, but real learning happens when we understand, question, experiment, and apply what we learn.
Then why do schools expect us to memorize pages of information for exams, but rarely encourage us to question, verify, or test whether it is actually true?
Because many education systems still behave as if the brain were a USB drive. Download the syllabus, write it in the exam, press delete after the results.
So, that's why so many students forget everything after the exams.
Exactly. Exams often test what you can remember for a few hours. Life tests what you can understand and use for many years. The biggest trap of education comes after graduation. At the convocation ceremony, many students receive their degree, breathe a huge sigh of relief, and say, "Thank goodness, learning is finally over." But that is precisely when real learning should begin. A degree is not the finish line. It is only your learner's license. Learning should never feel like a punishment. It should be a source of curiosity, discovery, and joy. Because what we genuinely enjoy, we naturally continue. And what we continue throughout life becomes our greatest strength.
I spent years in school. Yet, I never learned how to learn. Isn't memorization important?
It is. You must memorize some things: language, basic mathematics, safety rules, and essential facts. But memorization without understanding is like carrying a backpack full of books without ever opening them. Knowledge stored only in memory is easily forgotten. Knowledge connected with experience becomes understanding. Understanding applied repeatedly becomes wisdom. Imagine two students learning farming. The first student memorize soil chemistry, water requirements, plant diseases. He scores full marks in the exam. The second student plants seeds. Some don't grow. Some flourish. He experiments with sunlight, compost, insects, soil, and watering. He observes, makes mistakes, learns from them, and tries again.
Obviously, the one who actually grew the plants.
Correct. Information tells you only what. Experience teaches you why, how, and when. That is the difference between passing an exam and mastering a skill.
Teacher, how to do deep self-learning?
Deep learning begins when you clearly understand why you are learning something. When your why is absolutely clear, you naturally ask, "How does this work? What's happening over here? When should I use it?" A meaningful and a deep purpose awakens curiosity. Curiosity sparks interest. And together, curiosity and interest capture your most valuable resource: attention. Sustained attention with clear intention for application is the gateway to learning.
Then why do so many students study only a week before the exams?
Because for many, education has become a strange ritual: borrow someone else's notes, memorize someone else's words, write them in the exam, collect someone else's approval, and then celebrate for getting everything. If you study only to pass an exam, your goal ends when the exam ends. Without understanding, application, or repeated use, much of that information gradually fades because the brain gives priority to knowledge it uses frequently and finds meaningful. That is why many students say, "I knew it during the exam, but I've forgotten it now." The more focused attention you invest, the stronger your brain builds and reinforces its neural connections. Why? Because curiosity, excitement, and positive emotions keep your attention engaged and help create stronger, longer-lasting memories. So, become an active learner. Reflect, experiment and upgrade through earlier mistakes. Learning is not a straight line. It is an upward spiral. Each cycle deepens your understanding, sharpens your skills, and expands your wisdom.
So, from now on, should I actively look for topics and practical skills that genuinely interest me? And one more question. How did great scientists learn so deeply?
Absolutely. Your curiosity should become your compass. Look for topics that genuinely excite you and skills you can apply in real life. When learning becomes useful, it also becomes enjoyable. And what is enjoyable becomes sustainable for a lifetime.
Then why do so many people proudly say, "Don't ask me how it works. I just know the answer"?
Because sometimes we confuse remembering with understanding. It's like memorizing the recipe for tea and claiming to be a master chef without ever boiling water. And when someone asks us to question what we've memorized, it can feel uncomfortable. Our minds naturally resist ideas that challenge our long-held beliefs. So the ego quickly comes to the rescue and says, "Don't question it. This is how we've always been taught." But science grows by asking questions. Every great discovery began with someone who dared to ask, "What if this isn't the whole truth?"
Wait, are you saying great scientists didn't become great by highlighting textbooks in rainbow colors, reading the same page 10 times, and memorizing every definition for the exam?
No. They spent far more time highlighting the gaps in their own understanding than decorating the pages of a book. For them, finishing a chapter was never the mission. Understanding the concept and how it truly worked was their goal.
Is that why they kept asking why, even after everyone else thought the answer was obvious? Then no wonder some of them were called troublemakers in school.
Many were. They weren't trying to break the rules. They were trying to understand the rules that govern nature. Even Albert Einstein often questioned authority and disliked rote learning. Some teachers found him stubborn because he kept asking, "Why?" Yet history remembers him as one of the greatest scientific minds. That is exactly why great scientists never confused information with understanding. They were not obsessed with collecting information. They were obsessed with understanding nature. One of the best examples is Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. His reported IQ was not extraordinarily high compared with some other famous scientists. Yet he became one of the most influential physicists of the 20th century.
Then IQ must have felt terribly embarrassed.
IQ can tell you how fast you may solve certain kinds of problems. It cannot measure curiosity, imagination, perseverance, or the courage to ask questions no one else is asking. Because he approached problems differently. Instead of blindly following established methods, he broke complex problems into simple parts, questioned every assumption, and rebuilt his understanding from first principles. He searched for what others had overlooked. His extraordinary curiosity, creativity, and depth of understanding often led him to solutions that many brilliant people had missed. His life reminds us of an important lesson. Great discoveries are driven not only by intelligence, but by curiosity, clear thinking, and the courage to question.
Teacher, everyone says Richard Feynman was a genius. Was he simply born different?
That is one of the greatest myths about learning. Richard Feynman believed that genius was not about having a bigger brain. It was about developing better habits of thinking. He never tried to impress people with complicated words. He tried to remove confusion. He showed that true intelligence is not measured by how much you know, but by how clearly you understand and how simply you can explain. In our next class, we'll explore Feynman's remarkable art of self-learning, his practical techniques for understanding deeply, thinking from first principles, and learning faster in an age of information overload. Until then, don't just collect knowledge. Seek clarity. See you in the next class.